Nani?
Okay, let's just pretend that didn't happen.
apparently I forgot that one basic step is to move my microphone and the cable, and I thought it would be a wireless. So, yeah, that's what happened. So what we're gonna be doing is, actually, I can show off what I've been working on. Made some brioche. This is actually gonna be popping in the oven. But since this thing and the brownie require just about the same time, I'm still letting this come to a decent temperature before popping it in. Now, of course, with what I have and the given situation, I don't have the best bread making skills. So the dough looks not really consistent at the moment, but hopefully when it poofs up in the oven, it should be fine. As long as it's tasty, it's tasty. So making this dough was a pain in the butt that would have taken extra time for me to do, and that's why I had to finish it and completely set it last night. For now, we're gonna go ahead and get the oven ready. We're gonna go ahead and get it preheated at about 350, actually. Since we're making two things at the same temperature, I also prepared my brownie pan ahead of time. The one thing we're going to be doing is an important part of the brownie is we're going to try the brown butter method. The brown butter method in order to give an extra depth of flavor to the brownie, you know. So I'm going to be following loosely a of a simple recipe. We got a lot of eggs prepared here, but we don't need we're going to be using the most of our eggs, so we're going to take 5 eggs with the yolk of an extra egg. We'll save the whites for, because I'm going to be using this as an egg wash for the brioche, but we're going to take the white and mix that in there, and I'll just save the rest. So this is going to be our little egg wash dish right here.
So if you like that video and this is your first time here, please give us a big thumbs up. Be sure to hit the subscribe button below and hit that bell if you want to get notifications for any time we upload a new video. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
So we're going to be very precise on the butter. There's going to be a bunch of butter that we're using. Each stick is 8 tablespoons, so we're going to be using 1 stick. And because the specific recipe that I'm using calls for 2/3 cups, we're going to be using technically around 8 tablespoons of butter, and then we're going to take 2/3 of a tablespoon, and if nobody knows what the heck am I going to do with the rest of the 1/3 of a tablespoon, that's to continue and finish greasing the brownie pan, of course. Hey, what's up, Owl Hearts? Well, it's part of American diet, right? You gotta have a butter, dude. You always gotta have a butter. So I'm gonna get this butter nice and chopped up so it can melt more easily when I turn it into brown butter, and then we'll save the rest of it for another time. Because here's the thing, even if I have this pan greased enough and stuck with the parchment paper already, it's probably not enough, so I might need the extra greasing anyways. So I'm going to get the butter in this pan over here so we can turn this into brown butter over medium-low heat. You're right, Drek. You're right about that. Also, what's up, Owlhearts? What is up? Also, the desktop volume looks a little bit low at the moment. Let me check on that. Yeah, there needs to be a video balancer plugin because a lot of these YouTube videos, sometimes they get recorded with very high volumes, sometimes they get recorded very low volumes. I don't know what's up with that. Alright, so first things first, we're going to turn this into brown butter. And then we're going to also add some melted chocolate in there so we can go ahead and have the chocolate be married with the butter. And another thing we're going to be doing is... First of all, let me make sure there's no parchment left in this. Last thing I want to do is boil some butter with paper. I think we're good, though, for the most part. But you definitely want to keep an eye on this thing. So... I turned the heat on to medium low. You want to get the butter going, you want to get the butter melting, but you have to also keep an eye on it so it doesn't really burn. You want to make sure that you see the milk solids in brown butter, but also at the same time you don't want to really get any like charred bits in there unless you really want to go for that aesthetic on purpose. And once you see the color that you want in the brown butter, if you're not going to use it right away, it would be best to start reducing the heat down so you don't actually accidentally end up burning it. apparently what making brown butter does is that it evaporates the water content that exists in butter, while at the same time developing the flavor of the butter a bit more by toasting the milk solids in it a little bit better, as best as I can explain it.
The real question to be asked, where have I been? I'm a sharpshooter, I was masquerade, hiding both face and mind, afraid for you to drown.
Brown butter is also a pretty good ingredient to use in savory dishes too. I believe a common practice of using brown butter in a savory fashion would be with steaks. Now that itself is a really good recipe. I'll go away from the kitchen time to time to make sure that the audio level is okay for you guys. Right now the music is a little bit off. Hold on, it's a little bit louder than expected.
Moments of calm, nothing left to be found. A mirror right in front of me, that's where I found.
Oh yeah, good morning to you too, Will.
Reflecting that's a truth. It's telling what's the to be told. I need that mask. I can't tell you how to see me. Just a cage of bones. There's nothing inside. Will it always be?
So in the meantime, I am going to set the oven to 350 to preheat, as both our baking recipes are going to be requiring that temperature to bake around the same time, around 30-ish minutes or so. Okay, so just to show some progress, this is what our melted butter looks like so far. We're gonna take this a step further by heating up a little bit more, so that way we can separate the milk solids fully from the liquid. And then we're gonna enter our melted chocolate and a neat ingredient I'll show you guys. And when you notice, if you pick up on your nose that it's starting to smell like your favorite nut, toasted almonds, toasted walnuts, toasted pecans, however you pronounce it, then you know you're doing something right when you actually heat the butter up and it starts changing color. But again, I know I'm turning away from the stove to talk to you guys about what I'm doing right now in the kitchen. But definitely keep your eye on that thing. So let's go back and take a look at our brown butter situation and see how that's working so far. So there was like a pop sizzling sound that came from the pot. That's basically the water that's getting really, really evaporated as you're going from regular melted butter to brown butter. And you also want to make sure that when you're making brown butter that you frequently stir it to make sure that nothing sticks to the bottom of the pan, and also to make sure pretty much not to get things stuck on the bottom of the pot, unless you're really going for a specific recipe in which you require fond, but that's a fond is not what we're looking for here. Thank you so much for the host, Kiba. I'm currently making some brown butter right now for our new brownie recipe.
Hi, how are you?
So right now in the pot, there's some bubbling action going on. Basically, what's going on here is that I raised the heat a little bit so that way we can really get the water evaporating. And right now, there is a great amount of milk solids here, so I think this would be a pretty good time to add in the melted chocolate and an ingredient. I can't completely raise this to show you guys, but apparently we do have some milk solids on the bottom, so this is what we're looking for in brown butter. Once you start to see like little speckles that look like Parmesan cheese, Ramaggio, whatever you want to call it, that's a good time to actually like take it off the heat, use it in your recipe. If you need it to cool it down a little bit. I mistakenly said melted chocolate. We're gonna melt some chocolate in this, and I'm gonna add in a really good ingredient. So into this, we're going to be adding like a mix of a chocolate. Like this is a semi-sweet with some 60%. Baking chocolate obviously will give the best results, but if you only have what you have, just use what you have. 8 ounces or 1 cup. And as always, as with anything, Just make sure to scrape the bottom as often so nothing sticks, and keep the heat on low if you're no longer trying to cook whatever you have in the pot. Now what we have here is a, again, I can't completely show you guys without spilling anything, is a constituted mixture, so that way we won't exactly have to have a separate bowl for the melted chocolate butter mixture later. We could just use the pot. Yeah, no problem, Drac, no problem. In order for the mixture to come to a decent temperature, we're going to be using some coffee ice cubes, which I prepared the night before. This is also a pretty good idea to freeze any leftover coffee or tea that you have as ice cubes, because this is very versatile, especially during the summer. You can just pop these into some milk and boom, you can get yourself a nice, cool, refreshing drink right off the bat. We're going to be using one of these in order to cool down the chocolate butter mixture, and I noticed the volume is peaking again in the music. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we got one. Alright, so our chocolate mixture is basically done, and the reason why we need to add in that coffee ice cube is so we need a moisture component to reintroduce moisture into the brown butter, because losing the moisture can have a really disastrous effect despite developing the flavor of the butter. In addition, coffee really helps to amplify the flavor of chocolate, whether you're using it in liquid form or powder form for a recipe. So we'll set that aside. We go ahead and use the remaining butter to finish. finish greasing this brownie pan. And greasing helps especially to help get the parchment paper stuck in place here. Next, what we want to do is an egg mixture. The egg mixture, it's always easy to, for the brownies, we're going to be using just flour as our dry ingredient, as well as some leftover cocoa powder, and of course some good old matcha, because I'm making some matcha brownies. So as I said, folks, we're going to be using 6 eggs. Technically speaking, 5 eggs and 1 extra yolk. I find that because I'm such a brownie enthusiast, but also at the same time I haven't successfully made a brownie recipe yet. It either goes like incompletely fudgy to cakey to maybe somewhere in between. So let's hope this recipe works, because I've actually studied a bunch of different brownie recipe videos before this. Alright, perfect. So now here we have 1 extra yolk with the rest of the eggs, and this last egg will be going to our egg wash for the brioche. Don't put your eggs out for too long at room temperature, but as long as they're loose and pliable when they come out, they're perfect to use for baking. Here's an interesting thing. Pack away your eggshells in one spot, because apparently eggshells does attract bugs. Also, if you want to, if you have a garden, if you want to reuse your eggshells, you can have your eggshells be, I guess, part compost / fertilizer for your plants that you're growing outside. Or you could just throw them in the soil where the soil will just take care of the rest. That's something my grandmother does. So the eggs are completely done, being cracked. Now we just gotta go ahead and add some sugar into this. But because we also put it in semi-sweet chocolate, if it's dark chocolate, I would use the amount of sugar that the recipe would call for. However, because it is a semi-sweet, I'm going to be decreasing the amount of sugar by a little bit. So that way, it won't exactly be overpoweringly sweet. That is complicated to say. So into this, if I was beating up egg whites to make it nice and fluffy, I would add a cream of tartar and stuff to it. But after watching and looking at a bunch of brownie recipes and looking at a bunch of brownie videos, the main point is as long as you aerate the eggs, because you're not adding any leavening agent like baking powder or baking soda to your brownie recipe, then the amount of air that you generate in the eggs should be enough to make a brownie rise up. So, into this, we're going to be adding in a 1/4 cup of brown sugar for the molasses quality, and a 1/4 cup of confectioner's sugar because I kind of saw this as a little bit of a food hack from, I think it was Epicurious or something. A home cook actually used confectioner's sugar, and a professional baker decided to, because then when they were swapping ingredients, the professional baker had noted that it's a pretty neat idea because the confectioner's sugar has some sort of like physical property in altering how the physical structure of a brownie. So we'll see what happens when we do that. Thankfully, I found my handy bag of confectioner's sugar. We got the other sugar over here. We're gonna whip these eggs up, and then we're gonna add the sugar little by little. The main purpose here overall is that you do want to add your eggs into this. However, just as add some air into the eggs. But as I'm setting that up, let's go ahead and get the first Dream Raiders battle started and see how we're looking. pretty interesting. I thought Will would actually get one of the prizes, considering that Will landed the most kills, but GG's on that round. It was a pretty easy one anyways. Thank you for the Barbarian, Kiva.
Blows away the laughter from this treasured place, but in our memories it stays. This is where we say farewell, and the wind, it feels a little colder now. Here times run out like a spell. That laughter are loud. This is where we saw it.
This is a quarter cup right here. We're gonna add in the confectioner sugar first, and then we're gonna be adding in.
Friendship it was built.
We're gonna be adding in the brown sugar. And I think I'll add maybe a teaspoon, tablespoon more of each.
To bonds that were forged.
Yeah, definitely for sure, Will. Definitely for sure. We're gonna have a new mode this Friday for Stream Raiders. That's going to be an opportunity to get more bones as well.
Obscured by history, I still remember it with you, like I'm stuck in mixed reality.
Oh yeah, keys. I forgot because I remember earlier at some point in time they originally was gonna add it as the said bones for the new feature. Originally they said bones.
This is where we say goodbye, and I'm stronger for the time I shared with you. It helps me hold my head up high. In my heart, I'm with you. This is where the snow falls now. Moving hard and yet it melts upon my brow. Something keeps me warm inside. Some dreams keep me going through the night.
If only you guys got smell-o-vision, y'all could really smell what the heck I'm really smelling right now, because it's getting really good. We're gonna add in 1 more tablespoon of the confectioner's sugar. And what we want to make sure that we do is that we aerate the eggs. We want to aerate the eggs to make sure that they're up to the point of them becoming pale. That's when you know you've beaten some air into the egg whites. And welcome back, Drac. Welcome back. Okay, so this now looks a little bit paler than... But it should be able to work well because we've added in air into this. Now we are going to add in some vanilla, and then we're going to mix this in with our... We're going to mix this with our dry ingredients. And always remember, folks, when you're using a vanilla extract bottle, and the recipe calls for 1 teaspoon, the cap is basically 1 teaspoon. So all we need to do left is add in is sift in flour, and we're also going to be using some green tea powder. the last bit of flour we're going to be using. This is about half a cup of flour, which is just the right amount of flour what I hope we need. And then for the extra bit of cocoa, just we're going to be using the last bit of our cocoa powder as well. So let's sift all the dry ingredients together and get this mixture going and combined and constituted. In every other word that you want to say. Once you get your eggs in with some air after whisking them, whether you want to hand mix it as a workout or you use a hand mixer or a stand mixer, then you can go ahead and just fold every other ingredient in because you don't want to overwork the eggs. Alright, let's go ahead and grab a sieve. And then all your dry ingredients go in here. The purpose of the sift, once again, the purpose of this is so the ingredients can actually combine together much more easily, and you're going to have less to little or no lumps in your dry ingredients when you're combining everything together. Correcting lumps in the batter really kind of ruins the texture of it, like overall once you're baking it. So we're trying to like minimize that. Another thing is that when you're sifting dry ingredients, add in the salt last. Salt does not pass through this thing. Or if you want to add in the salt when you're adding in sugar, then that's also in a sugar component, then that's also fine too. So another great use of cocoa powder is to coat the bottom of the brownie pan, so that way it prevents. It's another prevention measure of your brownie ever sticking, and plus it adds a nice extra depth of rustic cocoa flavor. And you like the overlay? You're welcome, Kiva. You're very welcome. I feel like 6 tablespoons of this will be actually really too strong, so I'm gonna cut that down to maybe about 2 tablespoons and a half. We already got the cocoa component in here anyways. I trust that this brownie will be very delicious. And this overlay was kind of inspired by Corin and Charfade's cooking streams when they used to actively do cooking streams, so. Also, here's a pretty neat tool. If you have if you can get yourself a measuring spoons collected in one set, and you keep them all together, you won't ever lose the sets. One other thing I will add to this is actually some nutmeg and cinnamon, because nutmeg actually gives chocolate stuff their, I think, what we can call the chocolate donut flavor profile, because chocolate donuts have a very specific flavor, and that's basically nutmeg. Also cinnamon, because cinnamon will work too. Oh, this is close. Cloves are kind of similar to nutmeg, but this is a very strong flavor profile. And if you want to use it in a recipe, use this sparingly. This is what we're looking for, but if you can get like fresh grated one, use the fresh grated stuff. The fresh grated stuff will just be a level better than just getting ground stuff. But of course, because nutmeg has a very strong flavor profile, do not overdo this thing. So once everything that you know and love is all sifted together in this brownie batter without the melted chocolate, just fold it, don't overmix it. And remember to scrape the sides of the bowl so they can get every single little bits and piece of ingredient that just goes flying out to the side, because that will always happen. Alright, so it looks like the mixture is just almost about combined. And once I think it looks smooth enough, we're going to add in our melted chocolate mixture. I wanted to get at least as much as the component as possible, at least 98 to 99%. Actually, we'll go ahead and see how this Okay, this chocolate mixture is definitely really good. I think it's definitely sweet enough.
Where have you been? Been searching all along. Came racing twilight on and on. Without a clue. Without a sign. Without grasping yet. The real question to be asked. Where have I been? I'm a shapeshifter.
Okay, this mixture is definitely sweet enough. I'll add a little bit. I'll add like a touch of salt into this, and we should be good to bake. Salt Bay, I just decided to throw it in there, not like I'm being a perfectionist like Salt Bay is. Even if I do have a semi-perfectionist complex. Alright, with that being said and out of the way.
That's where I find an empty glass, reflecting the
This is actually one of the more finer brownie batters I've done.
it's telling words not to be told. I need the math. I'm a shapeshifter at those masquerade, hiding both face and mind, free for you to draw. I'm a shapeshifter, chained down to my car. Please don't take off my mask, my place to hide.
So now let's go ahead and pour the brownie mixture into this well-greased, well-powdered pan. This is actually an 8x8 inches.
How to see me? Just a cage of bones. There's nothing inside. Will it unleash me? Burning down the walls. Is there a way for me to break? I'm a shapeshifter at those masquerade,
So I'm giving this pan a little shake, and I just give it some taps on the counter in order to release any air bubbles that are inside. And also, just in order to level out the brownie when it's baking, we're gonna add a little bit more chocolate chips on top just because presentation. And you can't go wrong with a little bit extra chocolate on brownies, right? Meantime, let's also grab a fork, prepare the egg wash. Oh yeah, no problem, Drac. You take it easy too, my dude. Thanks for stopping on by. Hope you have a good one. Oh yeah, grabbing extra chocolate. Alright, so into the oven. Oh, before we throw the brownie into the oven, we gotta go ahead and prep le brioche, le pain, the bread. It appears the dough is springing back alright. So let's go ahead and egg wash this, and then we're gonna have these bake at the same temperature around the same time for about 30 minutes. Alright, this is how our bread is gonna look for now. This is how our brownie is gonna look for now. into the oven both go for 30 minutes, and let's go ahead and get the next Stream Raiders battle started. Alright, great job, folks, on the last Stream Raiders match. The baking time of the brownie and the bread should be long enough for us to resume and wait for the next battle in the meantime. I'm sure people will be like wondering, well, I have leftover egg wash, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? I think best course of action would just be to like make another recipe that incorporates eggs or just cook it for yourself, which is what I'm gonna do. And yes, thank you, Nightbot, for instructing people how to lurk. So I have some sun-dried tomatoes I'm going to chop up here and mix it in with the leftover eggs that I have. Also, let me go ahead and check something on Stream Raiders real quick while we prepare the eggs. Personally speaking, I do prefer tomatoes when they're like either made into a sauce or just devoid of their moisture. When it's like this, I kind of prefer them that way because if a tomato has moisture, then I really cannot stomach them, just like I can't really stomach watermelon. What about you guys? Do you guys like to eat raw tomatoes? Or just tomato sauced? Or tomatoes as a dried product? So these are what they currently look like right now. I'm kind of going to saute them a little bit, heat them up in a pan. And then we're gonna throw the eggs in there, par cook it a little bit because I want to actually wrap it up in a wrap, and throw some cheese in there as well because I haven't had like too much of a solid thing to eat all day. Of course, a good way to always make your wrap more pliable is just heat it up in the microwave or just steam it. I'm also going to throw some pesto in the wrap for some greens. So in about maybe a few minutes or so, we're going to go ahead and check on the brownie and the loaf pan. I'm going to be like rotating it. I need to rotate the bread pan anyways because it needs to like rotate in order to bake properly. Actually, I'm gonna rotate the pan right now. Camera's frozen. Hold on, let me go ahead and reset that, Kiba. Thank you for checking with me on that.
Hey, what's going on, fellow Phantom Thieves and mischievous adults? Thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video as much as we enjoyed making it. Get into explore the music of Persona 5 is such an incredible experience for us. I can't even begin to express how much of a blast we've been having. And most importantly, it's been allowing us to have an even better chance to connect with all of you Persona 5 fans out there just like us. And if you're new to Persona 5 and new to us, let's give you something nice to listen to. Can't go wrong with that. So what do you think of our guests? Is there anyone you want to see more of? Any instrument you think should have more of a spotlight? Let us know in the comments. And as always, if you really enjoyed this video, please give us a big thumbs up and be sure to hit that subscribe button below to stay updated on the latest J Music covers. But if you're really trying to hit that treasure stealing deadline, be sure to hit that little bell next to the subscribe button to be the first to know when we upload new J Music videos to our channel. Now, you see that box over there? Those are more J Music videos. So get out of here. I'm trying to catch up. Definitely not romancing her.
Hold on, I'm gonna reboot OBS real quick. Let's see if that helps.